Wow, what a 2 nights this has been. Welcome, everybody, to the Big Brother Canada 10 coverage of the last 2 nights, our veto night, our special eviction, and the finale. We were planning on going tomorrow, but we got so excited.
We had to talk about it. We had to talk. I got so much to say.
I couldn't just go to bed. In fact, I probably won't be sleeping all night. Welcome. I'm Sheldon. Here is the wonderful Josh Vitello here. We are here to go over what just happened because I'm shocked. Wow. I'm confused. I'm scared. I'm excited. I'm a million words. We have this episode will be a really fun recap of the last few nights. Next week, we will also be coming back, hopefully joined by Kevin and Kylie for the four of us, where I could brag about my win because
which is shocking because it's just like no one. Here's the ironic thing: on our pool picks,
yes,
none of us picked Kevin.
No, oh my God! Spoiler alert! Kevin won. Kevin won. How did he win? Okay, Josh.
Yes.
Before we go down that win and the path, and everything that happened, could you put in a sentence or two? What are your thoughts about what just happened over the last 2 nights?
Okay, so the last couple of nights, where all I gotta say is that the last couple of nights definitely
just a few sentences. Just a few seconds.
Okay,
what is top of mind?
Well deserved. Josh deserves to lose. That's it.
For me, the right person won.
I agree.
And I think the big lesson for me was perception is absolutely everything.
Agreed.
And if you do not have the ability to read the game and you deliver bad strategy, that outweighs another person, Kevin in this case, inability to win a competition. And in fact, it's almost as though bad strategy hurts your game more than good strategy could win it. So that's sort of my big takeaways from the last few nights.
And my biggest takeaway is that when you're going into the season at the beginning and you're looking at the cast, you're looking at the people who is most likely going to win this game. A lot of us felt Josh was going to win.
Yeah.
But then, that happens. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But my big thing is that what I've learned throughout this whole experience is that just because someone is most likely going to be first boot, who knows? Maybe the players might give them a chance, and then they could end up winning the season, and that person did. But also the fact that I was proven right that they should have got rid of Kevin in the first few weeks because otherwise he could have won the game.
It's not all about you, Josh. It's not all about you.
Well, it's not all about me, but it's clearly all about the other Josh who won $20,000. But we're gonna get to
that. He should be. That's a nice chunk of his residence loan for being in med school. Okay, we're gonna get back. We're gonna get through it. So let's talk about this. We start the night off yesterday. We have a special eviction announcement, and they're all about to go ahead and play veto. They went a little down and dirty, and the winner of this veto was Josh. He won his first veto. He won his last veto as well. He put up Betty and Kevin on the block. What should Josh do with this? What should Josh do with this veto, Josh?
I said this in the last episode on the live feeds, Chad, is that what Josh should do is use the veto on Betty and vote to evict Kevin. That's literally the right move here because then he goes to the final three.
Betty votes to evict Kevin.
Well, yeah, Josh uses the veto on Betty and Betty votes to evict Kevin, right? So it works out perfectly good, right? What happens next?
Well, what happens next is there's a series of conversations. You see Kevin and Helena start talking, and basically Helena says, look, it's obviously one of us. And they almost confess their love to each other in the sense of they're trying to give each other advice on if the other one leaves, what to do and what not. I love that, by the way. It was
kind of weird. Like, I enjoyed the moment from the two of them, but it was kind of weird. Like, which in a little bit, like Kevin actually showed more emotions on the show than he was to his wife. Was girlfriend. I like at this point, I'm just now sold on the fact that like he was married, but still, like, the fact that he actually showed more emotion with Helena than with his girlfriend was interesting. That's what I kind of took from that.
Well, so what was really interesting to me, and I think the most important conversation that we saw last night was a conversation between Kevin and Josh, where Kevin was obviously nervous. Kevin was obviously scared. He, again, had no power. And he tries selling the case of why they need to evict Betty. He keeps on saying she was on the block so many times. She was always targeted. She always got out of the block. She started to win at the end. People will, if you go to the end with her, she will win. And don't worry about the fact that I know you're scared that you're hurting your friendship with her. I know you're worried about that, but she is going to win and she will love you forever. It doesn't actually matter. Did this make sense? Was this the best argument? I will tell you, let me tell you my thoughts. I actually think that this conversation is the reason why Kevin won this game. I think that this was probably one of many similar conversations that we didn't see on air, that Kevin was basically pitching the idea and putting the idea in Josh's head. We can't beat Betty. We can't beat Betty. We can't beat Betty. And it's stuck. And even though at that time when he went ahead and he decided to put Helena on the block and save Betty, I think that message still stayed in his head, and that was key to what happened tonight. What do you think about that, about Kevin's argument?
I completely agree with you there. I think that moment right there is why Kevin won the game and how he managed to get Josh to take him to the end instead of Betty. Because I know for a fact that if Kevin didn't have that conversation, he would have been booted at 4th instead of going all the way to the end. So I do fully agree that conversation was definitely one of the key factors why he won this game.
Well, except that I'm not. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, but evidently, based on what we actually saw tonight in the finale, Josh was going to take Kevin anyways. So honestly,
I don't think so. I think like Josh like didn't really have his mind made up until like the last minute. I think there was maybe a side conversation with maybe Kevin or Betty like prior to this, or maybe they just didn't show it on the air. But like I could tell that he had a side couple with Kevin before.
But I think that this one thing that we've seen with Josh throughout this game was he makes strategic decisions. Like even if
he does.
Yeah. And I honestly think the pain that we saw wasn't him wavering. I think the pain that we saw was him actually being in pain of, holy crap, I'm going to have to vote out my friend. And I know I have to do it, but I have to do it. And the way I'm sort of like, listen, the finale just finished like 20 minutes ago. I'm still, or 40 minutes ago, I'm still digesting. I think Kevin was going to the end no matter what. Kevin was going to take himself to the end. I think Josh was going to take himself to the end, and Helena was going to take Kevin. I think somehow everybody thought Kevin had no chance.
I think 2 out of the 4 of them would have taken Kevin to the end. Like Helena, 1,000,000,000% would have taken Kevin to the end. Josh would have.
Betty would not have.
Betty would absolutely not have taken Kevin to the end. She would have taken Josh 100%. Like I think
from a statistical perspective, Kevin was solid because the likelihood of Betty winning 2 out of 3, very unlikely.
I think what Josh was trying to do at the final 4 when like he cut off Helena. When Helena got sent home, which spoilers, which we're gonna get to that in a little bit. But I think that move right there, he calculated that to make sure that both of them take him to the end. But it was a miscalculation because Kevin was not planning to take Josh to the end. I think Kevin was going to take Betty to the end. How do you want?
Well, look, we're going to talk about this.
Yeah.
We're fast forwarding.
Sorry.
But sadly, Josh had a lot of miscalculations. and he lost the game for him, like his bad choice. And I don't want to judge Josh because like I have immense respect for him, but it's so important your perception of the game. He had it wrong. He had his perception of Kevin was so wrong, and it killed him because if he would have taken Betty, he would have won.
1,000,000,000%. And even the fact he didn't just lose the game at Final Four, he lost the game at the triple.
That's interesting.
He lost the game at the triple. You saw the way that Summer was so like freaking bitter, and so was Betty. Like he had his read on them was so freaking off. Like if you're playing to like, here's the thing: the whole house wanted to work with Josh. The whole Josh wanted to take Josh very deep. He was such in a phenomenal position. But the next thing you know, what he decides to do was completely and utterly like this completely ruined his game. Had he would have put up Marty, Kevin, and Helena, yeah, Kevin and Helena, they were planning to flip on you anyway, so who really gives a shit?
But
you have those three.
He didn't know. They were.
He didn't know. He didn't know. But
he didn't know. Oh, but obviously, look, they outsmarted him 100%. They outsmarted him. Like he lost because he was outsmarted, and he got. And sadly, that's part of the game. And I actually think it's outside of the world of these reality games
versus inside
versus in real life. Like, so what, he got because people manipulated him? I would rather him, like his personality in the real world, because he didn't have that cutthroat. He wasn't going to manipulate. He never manipulated anybody.
I think that's like, had I actually I'm thinking of in terms of like what I would do if I was in the game, right? Without looking at the live fees or anything like that. I knew Kevin was going to be a problem the entire time. It's just the rest of the house.
But he didn't. He didn't know. He thought he was his best.
Yeah. So like, so I'm just speaking from my perspective on the fact being like, okay, what would like people, people like you and me, if either of us were to enter into the house, how would we view the situation? And Josh knew that the right moves to make were to like keep everybody, like basically keep all his people happy. And the ones that are less bitter towards him, they're going to take him deep. Betty and Summer, they were going to flip on Josh. Absolutely not. They were planning to take him to the end anyway. So,
but evidently, Josh was scared to lose against Summer, and evidently, Josh was also scared to lose against Betty.
Okay, Summer, fair enough. Betty, debatable. But
well, he didn't take her, so that's what he believed, right?
Yeah. So, fair enough.
We see a conversation then between Josh and Betty, where basically, they have this emotional thing. He's unsure, but he basically tells her, "I'm going to use the POV. I'm going to put Helena up. We've been together forever. I love you. We're together." And then Betty is very thankful, and says, "So who do I vote out?" And there is no real decision. We go to the veto ceremony, and we see Josh does use the POV. Betty does go off the block. Helena goes on the block. First time in the game. And what happens? Betty uses the POV, and she uses the POV on, drum roll, please. I don't hear any drums. People who are listening to us aren't hearing drums. She sends Helena home. Wow. Okay, Josh, talk about this move.
I'm completely confused. Like, especially the fact that like Betty was saying for multiple weeks, even in the past episode, she was sketched on Kevin. So the fact she didn't keep him, the fact she kept him over Helena, knowing, like, even in her confessional, she was like so adamant that Kevin is sus, that Kevin is going to be a huge problem later on. Didn't evict him. Why?
So I think there's a few things that happened here.
Yeah.
And I agree with some of their rationale, not all of them. Number one, I think they thought between the two of them, Helena obviously has a better track record of winning. And so for that final HOH, it would be a lot scarier to go up against Helena than it would be against Kevin.
Which is fair because like Helena did win one more veto than Kevin, but Kevin only won that veto on a fluke. So that's fair. So that's
100% fair. I think the other thought, and this was Betty telling Josh, and I guess Josh evidently ultimately believing it, is they both could beat Kevin at the end. So it's kind of almost that's what she said. If any of them sit next to Kevin, they both win. So
like
it was Betty setting up Josh later down the line to say bye-bye, Betty. Right? But the read obviously was wrong. The read was so wrong.
The read was off. Yeah, the read was off. Like I get the rationale on getting rid of the one that was going to win more comps, but we all know what the right move would have been at final 3. But we'll continue on from there.
After Helena leaves, we see Kevin absolutely in shambles. Sorry. I think. So you see Kevin in shambles, you see Josh in shambles, you see Betty like shocked, upset, annoyed, like scared, all of above. One of the things I got to see a lot that we saw a lot of in Kevin is his emotional side over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, and how he's a really good guy, and that I truly 1,000% believe he would have given up his game for Helena. He would have done anything, and she was the only one he was ever going to be loyal to.
I fully believe that, to be honest.
It was real pain. It was truthful from the bottom of his heart. Her walking out the door was as if he walked out the door. It was horrific.
I fully believe his emotional side when Helena was walking out that door. And I even said earlier that he actually showed more emotion towards Helena leaving than towards his girlfriend, which is interesting.
Crush? Lust? I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think there's maybe a little bit of a mutual.
So. Listen, they had 2 months in the house. They didn't do anything. So I don't think so.
No.
To me, it's almost, listen, you play a game. You play a crazy game. You're on camera 24/7. You're playing with people's lives in the game. You're lying, you're cheating, and they did it together 100% as a pair. There is nobody in Kevin's life that is ever going to replace Helena, and they're going to be friends for absolutely ever. It doesn't mean he doesn't love his girlfriend, whatever, soon to be fiance. Yeah. It's just they have a special bond and a special relationship that's never going anywhere. Nobody will ever understand what they did together in that game. Nobody.
Yeah, I fully agree. I think there was definitely a lot more that they didn't see, like especially on the live feeds. They were running, like they were in the middle of everything. Yeah. Which is crazy. I think Kevin was more in the middle of everything than Helena was. Yeah. I think for the fact that like the both of them knew exactly what they were doing since like they formed the Ghost on day 2, and I fully believe that if we're looking at like stats of like best duos, I think they would probably rank either second or third compared to John and Netta or Cassandra and Tim. Because they're considered the best duos. Yeah.
That's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I would argue that they're ahead of Cass and Tim because one of them won. And
fair.
That has to mean something.
Fair.
I actually never watched the John and Netta season, so don't judge me. So I don't know.
Well, John won that season. So.
Yeah, I know. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know actually.
But that the reason why I put like John and Netta as like second or third with Kevin and Helena, only for the reason being is that like John cut off Netta, so even though he claimed that she was his number one, he still cut her because he knew for a fact that Netta was going to win over her. So he chose money over loyalty. So if that makes sense, but
do you think that Helena and Kevin would have cut each other?
I think both of them would have taken each other to the end. Like even Kevin said that he was willing to throw his game away for Helena. So like obviously,
would Helena do it? Because I'm not sure she would.
Helena would. Like she said in her confessional when she was talking to Marty, saying that Kevin was her number one and Marty was her number 2.
I'm a little high. I didn't do any drugs. I don't do drugs. Stay away from drugs, kid. But I'm a little high, folks. This is like exciting stuff. We get to tonight.
This is insane. I love it.
We get to tonight, and we start to see the HOH competition. First of all, huge props to the Big Brother Canada production because all like the first 2 competitions were so gorgeous looking. Like it was awesome. Like the filming, the shots, like it was like. Maybe some of the best I've ever seen in BBCAN. Like, and I would go as far as saying this entire season has been visually really, really special.
I think like
in this field. What do you think, Josh?
I think like this season's comps has definitely been one of the most flashy and definitely the most like color popping competitions I have seen this far. Definitely surpasses some of the ones that have been completely colorblind or color blanded compared to the rest of the competitions I've seen. The one like I have no problems with any of the comps this season. I definitely enjoyed every single one of them. The only one I didn't really like was the Final Four HOH comp with Josh winning the bowling thing with the Wendy's thing. That was the only thing I didn't really like. But the rest of them were definitely colorful and spot on.
That felt small for a season where everything was big. It felt very
It
like
felt very clusterphobic,
Yeah.
or like a
it was strange, eh?
Yeah. I'm
So
not a fan
you
of
see
that.
the first part, basically relatively endurance stacking challenge type of a thing.
Yeah.
You have to try to stack 26 coins in order to move to stage part 3 of the HOH competition. This was going to take a while. I think it took over an hour and a half.
Which I'm kind of surprised because that competition looks like it could have been done in 20 minutes.
Excuse me. Don't be rude. You were not in the house.
I'm not being like.
You were not in the house.
Okay. Reason being is that like if you were to try to like stack up like heavy coins or like really thick coins and try to stim it onto a stick, unless you have like really big hands with really steady grip, then you should be fine. I thought Josh was going to win that competition because he has pretty big hands to hold the staff, so he had more support.
But that was the problem. The problem was the balance. Like
too, yeah.
Like that's the problem. Like it's not the stacking. They all were able to get to 26 multiple times. The problem was as you physically move it, how do you
it strangles on your arm a bit, yeah.
Like that's hard. And we saw Betty get to the end almost and win it, and like it topple. We saw Josh do it. Like all of them obviously had a chance of winning this competition, which made it so exhilarating when at the very end of the competition, you see Kevin's stack, 26 tall, literally move around, literally start toppling like a building in an earthquake. And he recovered. And he slowly as ever, almost like a surgeon, really like a surgeon, plopped it in. Slowly, he let go. Ding, ding, ding. He won! And it fell. It was awesome. Kevin wins part 1 of HOH. Honestly, I was shocked. I thought Josh was going to win this.
That's why I said I thought Josh was going to win it too. Like he seemed like he would have the most balance out of all of them. And especially when with Josh being a peds nurse, right? Or sorry, a doctor in peds.
Yeah.
You think that he would actually know like when to operate on surgery or like more so to like take care of his patients. Like you should know that like he out of all the people that's left in the game, he should have the one that has the most balance. But
I don't know. I don't know if that's how it works.
Listen, I guess I don't know. I'm just
what you spend your day balancing 26 hockey pucks? Like nobody does this. This is the strangest thing. Nobody does this in life. There's no way to practice.
Unless someone decides to practice Survivor competitions and then they decide to like balance coins on a bottom of a knife, then that's different.
If anybody would do that, that was Kevin.
I fully agree.
Before we get to our next sort of HOH part 2. Well, actually, let's go to HOH part 2.
I mean, why not? Yeah.
It was really, really pretty, actually, as well. Visually, there was technology. It was a great looking competition. There was answering questions. There was speed. There was physical running up the stairs, sliding down. Like it was not just a regular quiz competition. It had a mix of everything. It was Josh versus Betty, and it was a blowout.
It was a major blowout.
Josh finished it in 34 minutes, 35 seconds, and won. Poor Betty spent 2 hours on it. Can you imagine being in the house and they're in a room saying, probably they all separated them, all of them up in separate rooms, and Josh is like, "Why? What the hell? What's taking her so long? What's going on?"
Okay. I think the interesting thing is that I think Betty and Josh knew the answers. Well, except for Josh to a certain extent. Hold on. Sorry.
They both knew the answers. The question was, and they certainly had some struggle with, what was, I think Josh had safety versus a POV, and they couldn't really remember which was which. But you know what? They all knew the answers. The problem was getting the beanbag in the right spot, getting down to hit the buzzer quick enough. Like that was what this challenge ended up being. They were all very well studied. They knew the game.
Yeah,
They knew.
like I don't think the answers were the problem. Well, except for Josh on the last one. Like, it's just that Betty was having problems getting the beanbags onto the slide, which is like, I think she was trying to overhead some of the beanbags. I'm like,
Well,
shouldn't
what
you just
what
roll them
Josh
down?
was doing was what Betty was trying to do was roll it down like Plinko, and Josh was literally tossing it to the spot it needed to go. And so when you're actually doing the Plinko, it actually catches speed as it goes down. So it was far less likely to stick. Whereas when Josh was just throwing it there right onto the pedestal, I guess you would call it, it stopped.
I agree.
She figured it out. She figured it out. She figured out how to do it 2 hours later, but she figured it out. So you have your HOH part 3 players. It was Josh, it was Kevin, but before we get there, we got a round table where Kiefer is hosting the round table. I was so happy to see him, very dapper in his suit, representing his season, representing his game.
I love they brought Kiefer back. Like, my whole family was just like completely like applauding the fact that like Kiefer showed up. Like, I think Kiefer was one of their favorite players last season, so it's definitely a good surprise to see him return back. And definitely the perfect person to host the roundtable with someone who's a great speaker, who was
Awesome.
like been and someone who represents Indigenous communities
and loved.
And
Like, he's
loved
just a
by
good
all
dude.
across Canada. So it's
And somebody who probably would have won last season.
Oh, absolutely. Blowout.
Blowout, unlike a diaper, but a blowout. They talk about Betty's game, Kevin's game, Josh's game individually. Marty was impressed about the timing of Betty's POV win and how she did it. Helena said, she was nommed a lot, but she was never at risk, never had to do anything, never did anything. Herman argued, well, isn't that a strategy in and of itself?
I disagree. I think Betty was at risk, but only for Marty. That was it. I don't think I think she was only at risks when, even this was said down in the round table where, if Betty only survived because the bigger targets were still on the block, which is fair. I think had Betty had set up next to maybe Kevin or set up maybe against someone who maybe like JC Lynn or something like that, I think she probably would have gone instead of some of the other people.
Yeah. It's really interesting because I do think they were still underestimating Betty's game, because at least the first half of the game, Betty was completely thought of as expendable, which is why she kept on being on the block. And the thing about being expendable is that expendable in the sense that, we could put her up on the block. We don't want her to leave because who cares? We'll get rid of her whenever we need. That's sort of how I perceive Betty's game.
And that's how I perceived it too. And even the fact that I think Betty is an emotional player. So I don't think she I think all of her strategic moves will go based on emotion. Especially the fact when Josh nominated her at the triple, and then Betty won HOH and decided to nominate Josh in return.
Exactly.
That was an emotional move. That's why I consider her an emotional player.
They talk about Kevin. Moose says he's unpredictable, oddball, loyal, but he didn't win competitions. Helena says Kevin's a mastermind, but still realizes you have to play this game day by day by day and approach it day by day by day, which I thought was really insightful and quite smart. Mm-hmm. And Marty said, Kevin, the best person to represent our season, the best one. So this was sort of a little sign to me of, oh God, they get it. They get what Kevin's doing. They're starting to see his genius.
Harmon is starting to see it. Summer's starting to see it. Moose is starting to get it. Yeah.
And then what I was a little bit surprised about was how much they all love Josh from a game perspective at this point, because the question,
not just from a game perspective,
and from a personal perspective.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was obvious that they loved him personally. I wasn't sure if they would love him game, but the question that Kiefer asked, how many of you were in alliance with Josh? And everybody raised their hands. That says a lot about Josh's social game. And for a guy who is physically a threat, you
got to give him props for that. He worked with everything.
How did he do that? He should have been out.
here's an interesting thing. He was aligned with every single person except for Melina, who was first boot. Every single person. He had a final two with Jay. He had a final two with Herman. He was aligned with Moose and the rest of the POCs. He had an alliance with the what do you call it? Like the Six or something like that. Like you have the fake alliance and then the Six. Like he was aligned with every single person, which is insane to him. Which is like I applaud him for actually making it.
And nobody caught on, really. Like nobody really fully got it.
Here's the thing. I think, like, even if I were to be in that house, I would never have figured that Josh would be aligned with everybody. I mean, obviously, everyone would align with most of the people in the house, except for maybe like one or two. But for him to align with every single person since week 1 or week 2, amazing play.
So this was the moment where I thought, oh, God, if somehow Kevin and Josh are at the end, it's really going to be close. Because
it depends on who wins the final comp, though. Because if Kevin wins and Kevin decides to take Josh, then it's a close vote. But if not, then that's different.
I don't know. It was something. But we got to the final 3 HOH competition. Kevin, it's a quiz. It's who do you know your jury's best? Pick A for this, B for that. They added an absolutely hilarious little Brady Bunch clip of the jury that usually stuff like that makes me roll my eyes. It was hilarious. Like they really
it was good writing. Like, I liked it.
I'm just like, I don't want this. Just move on. This is boring. Like it wasn't cheesy. It somehow worked. It was awesome. I loved I want to watch it again. So to the actual competition, first question. Kevin got it wrong. And there I am sitting thinking, holy shite. But
I thought after the first question when he got it wrong, I was like, he's gonna throw it. But then spoilers, he got the next question right.
How? Why would he throw it? He can't. No, Josh. Why would anybody throw that?
Think of players like Dan Giesling.
He would not throw that. There's no reason to throw that.
That was in the back of my mind for a minute, though. I'm just putting that out there. Like,
that's scary.
Yeah,
that's scary.
Yeah, fair.
I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I'm like,
I'm just saying. Could you imagine that Kevin threw the competition and then saying and then Josh, and then still
is that a game-winning move? I threw the competition knowing Josh will take me to the end, and here I am about to win. That's a game-winning move.
I don't think it's a game-winning move, but it's definitely something to add to the resume.
It's risky as heck.
It's risky. Yeah.
We then see multiple questions where both of them get it right. Kevin is still behind by 1. Josh somehow, I think, gets the first wrong answer of the entire season in any quiz thing we've seen all season. It's tied. Sudden death. It's still tied. Tiebreaker on a chalkboard. Intense, scary. Question was, how long was each jury member inside the Big Brother house? Josh answered 7,120. Kevin answered 10,443. One of them, they're both wrong, but one of them is closer and underneath it, and that was Josh. Josh won HOH. Josh gets to choose who he takes to the end. And obviously, Josh, what's the right move here?
Well, the right move for his game is to take Betty to the end.
And what did he do?
He did the exact opposite. He took Kevin to the end.
And what was his rationale?
His rationale, which he said at the final tribal council or for the jury thing or for like a BBCAN, he said that like the reason he caught Betty was because he felt that like Betty he could win at the end, but then he also contradicts himself by saying he just like that he truly believes that like this person is like the best person here, and he truly believes that he can beat the best at the end. And he also felt like he had no shot at winning if he sits next to this specific person, which is a counterintuitive thing towards Betty. And then he emotionally breaks down, and he might have cried like I don't know if he cried more or just a bit as much as Kevin when he was about to quit the game, as like the fake thing. And he sadly bawled his eyes out to evict Betty. Betty then bawls her eyes out. And then here I am sitting with my family, my mom and my sister and myself, were all saying, Josh, you're an idiot. You literally lost the game right there. You had the biggest opportunity to win Marty and Helena's votes by cutting off Kevin. But
Listen,
you did not do that.
Step one mistake, Josh let Betty vote out Helena. Step two mistake, Josh kept Kevin. It was just there's I don't want to shit on him.
You forgot one extra step. Step one, he let Kevin and Helena be the decision makers in the triple.
True.
Mistake number two, he let Betty cut off Helena at the final four. Step number three, he decides to bring Kevin to the end because he feels like that he wants to be the best instead of Betty. When he knows from a strategic standpoint, you can't win against Kevin. 3 strikes, you're out.
Well, he doesn't know that, obviously, because he thought that he would beat Kevin, or else he would never have done that.
Which is like fair because he thought that like he had the jury votes with Herman, Moose, Summer. I think he thought like I kind of see the rationale now. I kind of see it.
Well, I don't know. I think he bought into Betty's idea that everybody could beat Kevin, and he also sort of like he just bought into that. I think, and I think he also just.
I think it was a mix of Kevin and Betty getting inside his head saying Kevin is beatable, and they need to get rid of Betty. I think both of those conversations is the reason why she left instead.
Listen. I kind of feel bad to shit on him because he maybe obviously is wrong because maybe Betty would have beat him. I don't think so, but
let's just take a minute to actually think of the jury votes for a second. Let's just say Josh decides to bring Betty to the end, right? Kevin gets evicted, last member of the jury. If we were to look at the numbers for Canada's vote, right? Josh would have been right behind Kevin, so Josh would have gotten that vote. Would Herman vote Betty or Josh? 100% Josh. Moose, same thing. Then you got Gino. Gino would have voted for Josh. Then you also got Marty. Marty would have voted for Josh. I think all of them would have voted for Josh except for Helena and Summer. I think it would have been a 6-7-2 or 7-1.
Yeah, 8-1. But I think you're right. Listen, I don't want to shit on him. It was a mistake.
No.
It was a mistake, and I have to say that. Well, let's get to the Q&A, to the jury Q&A, and then we'll talk about the end because I got a few thoughts. First question was from Herman. Basically says to Kevin, "Look, you held your cards close to your chest. What was your game-defining move?" And Kevin very simply lays it out. Listen, day 2, I got my ride or die with Helena. Day 34, we pulled in Josh. And then you, my friend, you were on to me. I had to get rid of you, and I needed you out. What was interesting to me about Kevin's approach was it was very simple, and it was to the point, and he very carefully answered to every individual what they thought they would want to hear. That's what I thought was quite interesting in Kevin's approach.
I don't think that was the case. I think he was just trying to plead his case about his game. He didn't want to talk anything personal related. I think it was just giving off straight game bot vibes the entire time. But I think the rest of them were so buying into that because they were so hurt by Josh.
That's a really good point. That Josh hurt them even more than Kevin did. Moose asked Josh, "You were aligned. You were aligned with the whole house. Did you really have a number one base, or was it simply based on who was HOH?" And Josh gave the truthful answer. I was adaptable, and I knew I had a large social influence. And other people, because of my social influence, were always there saving me. Truthful answer. Basically said, you know what? Everybody was my number one because I played them. I used my social strategy to get me to the end. And honestly, that is what he did. That's truly what Josh's number one was himself. I also partially think that's his downfall because he wasn't able to individually analyze the situation the best. Whereas I think Kevin at least had Helena, and they were both telling each other everything. So at least they had two people to think through the situation. They had two people to understand what was going on in the game.
I think you definitely have a point here, but I also think that like the way he was answering the questions, he was nervous. I could tell he was nervous.
Yes.
He was very, very tense. He was very scared.
He just sent home his best friend.
Yeah, which I don't think he realizes. Maybe that would like. I think maybe in the back of his head he realized he made a mistake, and maybe like I think he was just so fixated on the fact he just heard Betty, and like you could tell at the very end he had to just let it all out. But like we'll get to her in a minute. But yeah, like I could tell he was so focused on the fact that like he just hurted Betty, and he'll never forgive himself for that. And like I think he was just more focused on that than just focused on the answering the questions in a confident manner because it definitely hurt him.
Gino asked the question about why getting rid of him was the better move. Why was Josh a better move to keep in the game over Gino? And Kevin just says is right out there. You had the two best HOHs. You were doing really well. You were scary. You got to go.
And yeah, like, so he was straightforward, and that's how Gino is. Like I think a lot of people on the I think a lot of people on the jury are straight shooters. Huh. So it's like I think Kevin had the upper hand right there because he knew for a fact he had to like just go all game.
It was not a bitter jury. Well, maybe
I know it was bitter. It was
against
bitter.
Josh.
Summer was bitter at Josh. Betty was bitter at Josh. Helena was bitter at Josh.
But I think they made decisions not based on emotions. I think they made decisions based on who they thought played the better game. I don't think they.
I think Summer did though. Out of all of them, I think this Summer definitely did.
A little petty, she said.
A little petty, yeah.
Summer, to the snake who bit me on purpose. Josh, you lied to me and backstabbed me. Why did you blindside to get me out? Josh apologized, and he basically says, I had to look at the better picture. When I put you up, Jay Smarty, you were all the biggest threats, and everybody wanted to see you out as well. If I didn't get rid of you, it would have been harder to get rid of you later. Listen, he was trying to compliment her at that time.
Yeah, which I definitely tell, like, that was definitely probably the best answer he could have given to Summer. It's just, I felt the damage was already done. It was not repairable for her anymore.
Agreed. So, I think we were done.
Yeah.
Marty, Kevin, when you won veto, you said it was my call. If I told you not to use it, would you have done so? Kevin, without even a second's thought, no. That was part of my game, making other people think that my move was their move. I knew before the competition what I was going to do before, and that's exactly what I did. Again, I think this is Kevin giving really thoughtful. Stop looking at yourself. You're fine.
Just go answer the question. It's just my hair's getting.
Those of us listening to us on pod, Josh is literally looking at himself, checking. He's like, I think he almost said, "I'm really cute." Like he's probably thinking that in his mind.
Or maybe I'm just like comparing myself to Gino. Anyways, just
you are not Gino. You are Josh Vitello, better than Gino. So yeah,
ego boosting. I don't know.
So I actually, again, I love this answer that Kevin gives to Marty because he's completely showing them his strategic mind. If they didn't see it before, if they didn't feel it in person, he's literally showing himself. I also think what was really great to see in Kevin's answers was I don't actually think a lot of the jury saw this side of Kevin, the completely confident, thoughtful, strategic, I knew what I was doing the entire time Kevin. I don't think a lot of them saw it. And so him turning it on was sort of he was playing me this entire time. It was, I think it was tonally so right.
I think that like the first few weeks he realized they were catching on to him, so he actually had to play the game. At that point, like I think like even Kevin, Kevin Gilreath, like our Kevin, he even like analyzed the fact that the first few weeks he was playing up this sad story as part of his gameplay before he comes into the house. I mean, I get it. Like, it's an effective strategy. It's annoying to me, but it's an effective strategy. So the fact that like people were catching on to him, he had to change the dial up a little bit. And that's why he slowly had to work up his charm and all of that and try to get people to gravitate towards him. And the fact that he was showing up literally all the receipts of all the things he did throughout the game, and everyone like caught wind of being like, oh my gosh, I got played, but I love it. And the way he was selling that to them, I think he took pointers from Herman as being for him being a car salesman. He took pointers of how he speaks and actually spoke like him. So I think he did a pretty good job.
Just in case anybody who's listening isn't aware, we love Kevin. JC
like Kevin throughout the course recently has definitely Kevin
has been the star from day one, Josh. Kevin has been playing this game from day one. Kevin has been making calls from day one. Kevin had a bad week last week. Josh had a bad week
this week
and wasn't able to recover, whereas Kevin was able to, and that's the biggest difference.
I fully agree.
It's sort of like, it's a bad time when the Maple Leafs have a bad week during the playoffs.
And it's also a bad time when the Raptors lost to Philly, and look where they got them.
It certainly is. JC Lynn basically calls out Josh for crying a lot and asks a pretty blunt question. Was appearing weak part of your strategy? And Josh's answer was kind of interesting, because I think this is the difference in answers between Josh and Kevin, is Josh answered the question truthfully. And I think he did fine, because he basically said, yeah, no, that was real vulnerability. I didn't know I would cry a lot. What I wish Josh would have done is give that answer, but also say, however, from a strategic perspective, look at me. I was always second in the POVs. I knew I was a comp threat. And by doing that and being my real self, I knew you guys would not think of me as being such a threat. He never connected that. And I think that was a major loss for Josh.
And I think what Josh was lacking is that he never really touched on his strategic side. He touched more on his connections with people and all his social bonds with the rest of the players in the cast. I think he focused on that so much, he didn't highlight his game too much, other than being the number one of everyone that's in the jury. So I think Josh, had he would have displayed more of his strategic wording in his answers, he probably would have done so much better and maybe gained one or two more jury votes, but it didn't do much for him.
Helena's question was really interesting to me, because I think
Ghosty.
Well, hi, Ghosty. But I think it was interesting to me because I think she was actually asking this question not for her vote, but asking this on a personal note. And what her question was, I'm so happy to see you here, but before the special eviction, did you know that Josh was going to be sent home? And that hit me a bit, because in my mind, what she was actually asking is, did you also play me? Because did you know this or not? And she was actually asking. And Kevin's response was, no, I didn't know. I fought for you, and I would have given my game up for you. And you saw almost this immense sigh of relief on Helena's face of, he wasn't playing me. We were really final two. And she was going to vote for him anyways, no matter what he said. But I think that on a personal basis, it made her feel like this is real.
I think because of her entire experience in the game, she didn't really have a true ally in the game. She felt like she could trust Kevin more than the rest of the people in the house, so she had to ask that just for gratification, knowing that she didn't get. She wanted to make sure she didn't make a mistake on her part on reading people. So I think I agree. She was definitely voting for Kevin, regardless of the answer. She just wants to make sure that she wasn't being played by him.
Betty was next. Betty says, did you always know that you were going to evict me at final three? She was extremely emotional. She it was so raw. It was so evident. It was almost hard to watch, in truth, and almost unfair that this is the way they do it, although also amazing television. But she was raw, and Josh just burst out crying. I'm so sorry. I was just thinking of my game first. I just thought that Kevin didn't win a lot of comps, and if I would sit against you at the final, stop looking at yourself in the camera.
Get going.
What's going on here, everybody? Josh keeps on looking and touching his face and his hair.
Okay, go on.
Your hair is fine. Your
I
hair
apologize
is fine.
if it's annoying. Go.
It's annoying me. Get over yourself.
Okay.
Your hair is fine. And again, he's upset. He's crying, and he basically says, "Look, if I was sitting against you, I would lose." And Betty,
which after we did the math, it's not happening.
it's not true.
No,
Again, he read it wrong.
he read it
And
wrong.
Betty says emotionally, "It's okay. It's just
It's
a game.
all good.
I
I'm
love
sorry.
you. I love you. I know why the hell did you? I love you."
Yeah.
This was a really interesting, Q&A. I actually look. This is a quick show, a quick finale. I always wish we would get a lot more Q&A from juries. Like one question each is not enough. Time is not enough. Like I want more, because I would love them to have to argue intricacies of their game, because in one answer, it's really hard to tell. Like, I don't know. I honestly kind of think that if Helena wasn't there, it might have been a little bit harder for Kevin. Like I think that Helena helped show and build the real big picture of what Kevin did while they were in the jury, wherever, the jury hotel, the jury house together. But look, in a 10-minute segment, how the heck do you actually sell anything proper? It's so hard.
And the interesting thing is that I don't think JC Lynn gave a question.
No, she did. She asked if Josh played the weak game.
Wait, hold on. Maybe I'm missing a jury member, but did all jury members get a question?
They all got a question. Yeah.
Okay, because BBUS only highlighted certain jury members and not all of them for some reason.
Yeah, that's annoying. We see the finalists plead their final case. Josh says, "Sorry to anybody that I hurt. I fought so hard. I never thought I was going to be here. I changed my outfit 3 times a day because I thought I was leaving early," which I don't actually understand what that means.
I really didn't. I stopped paying attention to his final speech because I could tell he was definitely very, very nervous after the questioning.
But here's the thing: he actually really defended himself relatively well. And honest to goodness, if it wasn't Kevin, he could have won. If it was another season, he might have deserved to win because he was on the block 4 times. He was on the block more times than anybody else in this house. He was part of 2 house flips. Later in the game, he dominated competitions, including winning the final HOH. He started to this resume, and you're like, yeah, you did that. Yeah, you did that. Yeah, and I like you. What?
Yeah, I think Kevin. I think the main difference with Kevin and Josh is that Kevin had a better resume than Josh.
Kevin had a better soft resume, I should say, behind the scenes resume.
Yeah,
Josh had a lot of wins. Josh was on the block a lot. Josh got himself out of a lot of.
And Josh was aligned with everybody. I fully agree. I think if Josh was on another season, he would have won.
He would have won. Josh played a good game. He screwed up at the end. I won't take that away.
Well, but to be fair, Kevin screwed up at Final 5, but then Josh screwed up at Final 4. So
the difference, though, is that Kevin's game allowed his mistake to be recovered. Josh
did not. Yeah,
right.
Fair enough.
And that mattered. Kevin's final plea was, I came in here with the glasses, and I knew you people would think of me as a super fan, as a villain, as a schemer, and it all would be true. I lied through my teeth. I downplayed my threat level. I came in with a suit, so I'm funny, and people don't think of me as being a threat or being serious. He won safety and was good. He always had safety because nobody would go against him because of all that. He also said, in summer, that was my plan. I knew you were going on the block. It wasn't, and you see Betty. Oh Lord, oh my God, how did this happen? Oh my God, I didn't know that about Kevin. And Helena, yeah, I had a final 2 with Josh, but you were my real final 2. I was never going to go against you. And no, I love you all no matter how much. And they all you hear it. They're all erupt in this applause as if he won the Academy Award or something. But it was done. It was over. They all loved him so much at this point, and they all respected him, and they were so proud of him that it was over. We get to the vote. Arissa votes for Canada. Herman votes and says, whoever wins, you got to buy a car for me. A little cheesy. Moose, honestly,
he was I only voted because I have to.
Only vote because I have to.
Okay, bye.
Gino, tonight, I cast my VOTE for the best nominee. Love it. Summer, to make my decision, I use logic, brown sugar, and a sprinkle of pettiness. Love it.
I knew for a fact when she said that, I'm like, she's voting Kevin. Like, I already knew right there. Like, it was funny.
Marty, I vote for the person who played the best game and will rep season 10 the best. To the other person, kick your feet up. You're good.
Kick your
I love it. I love it. It was so funny that
I was dying. I was dying.
Jason Lynn in a house full of snakes. I'm voting for the king. Cobra. Love that. Helena, I was invisible this whole game, but you are deaf. Going to see this vote. Meh. Betty, voting for the player that actually played the game. Which was Kevin, so she voted wrong. All votes are in, and
I think like she was just trying to give a reason. I think she just gave Josh a sympathy vote.
You think she knew that he was going to lose? I don't know. I
don't think so.
Like,
I think
she might have been shocked still, like not sure.
I think like if you're the last jury member evicted, I think either you're going to vote emotionally or you're actually just going to vote like strategically who literally played you. And I think Betty was kind of a mix of both, but I also think I don't think she even cared who the jury was voting. I think she just voted Josh just to show that, like, hey, we're still good. Like, I think it was still that.
I think it was, I think she was so emotional. I don't think she knew she didn't process what was going on. Like, she had no idea.
Yeah.
Listen, there's also it's really poor management that she didn't know what Josh was going to do. Like, she was shocked. Like, that's a bad Josh move too.
It was that was a horrible Josh move. It was a horrible Josh move to nominate Summer, and it was a horrible Josh move to get rid of Betty. That was horrible.
Like, there was no point to do that. Like, she had no chance. So, like, he could have told her, listen, I'm sorry in advance. If I win this is what's going to happen. Like, there was, I don't know. Maybe there was some strategy not to.
Maybe he was wavering back and forth. I don't know.
You want to hear who won?
I would like to know. Do you?
I already know.
Everybody
obviously.
Everybody knows. That's why they all tune on.
Kevin, this was, I was so happy to see it. He was so well deserved. He played the entire game. He played it smart. He played it hard. He never stopped. He had, as I said, one bad week, and he made a bad mistake and was able to recover. He backstabbed people. He manipulated people. He lied to people, but he did it in such sort of a loving way that it wasn't like it didn't leave a bad taste in the jury's mouth. It was almost like a silly, kooky, funny guy. Like, he played the game I'd love to play.
Yeah, like I think he definitely I think the interesting thing about Kevin, which I never thought that I would say, he read the room.
100%.
Right.
Look, that was part of the reason he did so well. He knew he had really good perception of everybody in that house. He got
really good perception. Really good. And honestly, he took out the right people when he needed to. He got the people to flip when he didn't have to, but he did it anyways. So definitely the right person won this season. And
I have to say, ultimately, I was very doubtful about Kevin and Helena's move of keeping Josh over JC
Lynn. Yeah.
Right? But
I was like, honestly, that's not the right move here.
I didn't think so either, but obviously Kevin was right. Kevin was right for his game, because if Jason was there, if she really felt that Kevin was going to win, she wouldn't have thought twice. She would have brought anybody else. She would not have thought twice.
Yeah, and let's just say Jason Lynn. So let's just say Josh did get cut at Final 5, and then Jason Lynn made Final 4. Jason Lynn was going to go no matter what, anyways.
If she won,
if she won the rest of the competitions from here on out. Had she would have won the game, though. Probably not. Probably not. I think she might only get Gino's vote, and that's it.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, actually. I don't know.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
What was really interesting to me was Kevin's reaction to the win. He obviously
was in pure shock. His face was like this the entire time.
Did he also believe that he was going to lose? That's part of what I thought.
I think he realized that, I think he was reading the jury votes. He thought he didn't have the jury votes to win. I think that's why he was trying so hard to convince the jury. I think he was convinced himself he didn't win.
And that could be because he was sitting there with Josh and Betty, who were basically saying to themselves and maybe even to him, "We beat you. We beat you. We beat you." Like maybe he was just completely and totally unaware, also of how good his game actually was and how he was being perceived. He was shocked at Herman's vote for him. He thought for sure Herman would have voted for Josh, and then one by one, including Canada, which I voted Kevin to win, obviously.
I voted Josh. But
obviously, Josh stays with Josh. Kevin stays with Sheldon. But it was such a real sort of a complete shock. He didn't have the ability to comprehend or understand. I really wish they would have had, at least for this episode, their families there. I wanted that family thing there, that family hug when you come out, from his girlfriend, fiance to be, wife to be, divorcee to be, who knows what's going to happen. And consolation prize, Josh wins $20,000 for second place, which is not too shabby at all.
I just want to touch in on that, on the family thing. I think that right now, because we're slowly coming out of the pandemic, I think they did not want to chance that yet. I think
I get the reason. I get the reason. I just think that, and in fact, that's the reason why when they did the family visit, they did it through a glass screen. Like, I think it was purposely done from like a TV perspective of, we have a phone, so we can't actually physically see each other. But that was completely a COVID decision, and it worked so perfectly for TV too.
I definitely enjoyed that. That was definitely a sweet moment.
I loved it too. It was so much fun. And again, shocking to me, house guests. The Canada voted for who the house guest of the season was. Marty. What?
I think. Qu'est-ce qui se passe? Oui. I think that. I think like all the people of Quebec voted for Marty, and including all the French people that is all across Canada.
You think this is a Franco vote? Like that's?
I think voting Marty was a Franco vote, and also I think the older generation also voted for Marty too, because I think he was one of the oldest people of the season. But if that was the case, then Tanisha should have gotten it too. But okay.
Well, no, Tanisha's younger than Marty, but I don't get it.
Maybe a few years though.
I didn't get it. I don't think he deserved it. Like
Marty definitely did not deserve it.
I will say that it's not like he didn't provide entertainment. 100%. I thought Kevin was gonna get it.
Yeah, I didn't think Kevin was gonna get it. I think either Summer, Herman, or maybe Gina would have gotten it. I don't know.
I thought Kevin was going to get it, especially
out of all the people. I did not expect Marty. Like,
do you think that they didn't let the finalists get it, or because Kevin won, they didn't want to give it to him, so they gave it to runner-up? I wonder.
No, because I looked at the polls and it saw that like Marty was in first the entire time on Twitter.
Wow.
And then Kevin was right behind them, so Kevin should have gotten it, but
so. Josh, Kevin won. Kevin Jacobs of Toronto, Ontario, season 10 winner of Big Brother Canada.
Won $100,000.
Before we call it a night, final thoughts?
Definitely. Looking at back of all the past moments, it was definitely a roller coaster of emotions for this season. Definitely a great season. It was an unpredictable season. I would was it better or worse than BBCAN 9? It's up there, but it
was much better. Much better.
It was much better for you?
Oh, hells yeah. No,
I kind of like 9 a little better than 10, but that's just me.
Meh.
But 10 is still really good. I think the right person.
Can I just say why I like the season more?
Feel free.
And it's so strange.
Yeah.
The bad strategy was so bad, it was great to watch. That's why.
For 10?
Yeah. The Kyle. The Marty,
the craziness,
the Jess sometimes, I think all of that craziness.
It's just the moves
made it a much better show. Whereas I think that the other season was strategically a little bit better, and they really did play last in BB9. There was a lot of a 4 and a this. They had more real bigger alliances that were true, and I don't know. This was a lot more fluid and all over the place.
This season had a lot of voting block alliances, which I definitely like more than 9 in that aspect. I don't know. I might have to rewatch 9 and maybe watch it with 10 to see which one I like better. But yeah, definitely.
You watch them all.
I'll rewatch them all, and then I'll do a tier list from that later. But yeah, definitely a good season for me.
So my final thoughts: the winner who should have won, I believe, won. I love this cast. Honestly, there might be a few people that meh, but all of them truly went pre-jury, so I didn't have to deal with them. I loved it. It was so much fun. It was entertaining. It was strategic. It was funny. It was loving. It was great. Everything you want from a BBCAN season. I have to say. A big thank you to Kevin and Kylie for letting me and letting you, Josh, be a part of the coverage. I have to say, I've always watched Big Brother. I certainly have not watched it to the depth that I watched this season.
Same.
And it kind of made the experience so much deeper and better. And it made this finale so much more emotional and fun.
It feels like
I loved it.
Like it feels like a sports broadcast, or it feels like you're trying to make the analytics being like, like if I put these people on my graph team, do I think I have a better chance of winning? Do you think if I read the field right, like it really gets so deep into it, and I definitely love the feel of that.
I don't know. It was fun. What a night. Congratulations, Kevin Jacobs. You are the winner of Big Brother Canada 10. I'm so proud of you and happy for you. Congratulations to Josh. Congratulations to Marty. And really congratulations to everybody else.
Quick question, though.
Yes, best winner ever. I think he's one of him and Paris are up there for me.
I think he's definitely top 3 winners, to be honest. Like him and Dane are like close for me.
Oh,
him and Dane are close.
Dane. No, not Dane. Nah.
Really?
Meh. Whatever.
Okay.
I prefer teeth. I don't say that in most areas of my life, though. Awkward. There you go. It took you a second.
It did, yeah.
Well, Josh, we are going to be back here next week at some point where we're going to do our overall review of season 10 of Big Brother Canada. What day? Well, we're going to let you guys know at a later point, but we're going to do this, I assume probably Tuesday, but we'll figure it all out. The truth is we have no clue, but we'll figure it out.
But we'll figure that out later when it happens, right?
We're not plugging anything tonight. I'm just happy that this was such a great season. Josh, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for talking BBCAN with me this entire season. For everybody at home, thank you so much for spending time with us. I think I need to go to bed. I won't be sleeping because I'm going to Kevin's house to congratulate him. I don't know where he lives, but I'm going to try.
You go do that. Probably.
Good night, everybody. Thank you all for joining us. See you soon from outside for the fans' house. I'm Sheldon for Josh. Good night.